4. We're live. Mr. Wade.
Good
Um,
night. Good night once again to our Belizean public, both at home and abroad. Welcome to our 225th edition of Belizean Affairs Show. Tonight,
Wow.
tonight, we should, bring some interesting things that is happening in our country. And as always, we are about people, a nation. And on that note, it's always a pleasure to sit in the company of Miss Sharon Pitts. I thought that one time she had left the country and abandoned us, but yeah, she is, she is always, supporting us
The
and,
prodigal, the
be,
prodigal.
when she has the time, she actually support us and come to the nation and stress her concern. And I'm, so glad that, we need more outspoken people, to some true patriot, who love country and who love people, to come out and speak out on issues and are not afraid to do so. So um, it's always a pleasure, Miss Spitz, to have you. Good night.
Thank you, thank you.
And again, it's always a pleasure to sit in my dear friend here, my partner in crime, one of the three,
Your partner in
my
patriotism, your comrade in defending Belize.
it's always a pleasure to
Mr. Wade.
sit with the
Um,
truly hard way. Me,
uh,
myself, Mr. Leonard, Brackett, and Mr. Gregory Brackett. We are called
Mr.
Three the Hard Way.
Mr. Wade,
Yes, sir.
would you like to tell our Belizeans at home and abroad about our special for the night in terms of uh, how the program going to run tonight?
Oh, tonight we have very interesting. I hope and pray that Greg in the back, cause we always show and tell, queuing up something. But lately he has been having some technical difficulties in queuing up, like like they're trying to throw him off all the time. But he's a technician too, and he will figure it out. But we're gonna talk a little bit about the healthcare, something that's very dear to us here in this country. And we have been talking about this for some time now, and 2024, see where we at. And if time permits, we're going to talk a little bit about the recovery, the recovery after the storm, and a little bit about the lands department. Recovery after the storm, which we have a lot of I know by now they should have declared the Belize River Valley, all those villages
State of
along that
emergency.
way are a state of emergency. But I don't know, right, why they haven't done that from day one. But very interesting program we have tonight. So to start our program, we always start with a prayer. And
Mr. Wade,
yes, sir.
uh, my little queuing earlier was about you being our regular Wednesday night chairman, and for tonight we are glad that Ms. Pitts had accepted to chair tonight's program. So that's where I was going when I mentioned about
No.
what we had for the night. That we were going to be making a little switch around, and Ms. Pitts will be the chairman for
Oh
tonight's
yeah,
program and
yes,
running the
yes, yes,
affairs.
yes, yes.
So
She will be.
that being formally
There has been a
suggested,
televised coup of
Yeah, right there.
chairmanship right here on Belizean affairs. It
first,
look like
first,
one of the follows for other example.
And we praise him, Miss Spitz. We do it right publicly. We praise him. Can't hear no back room and back. No, we do it right there. So anyway,
no kind of cabinet meetings, no,
no,
Mr.
no,
Wade.
no,
So
no, 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 no secrecy. Yeah.
on the fly.
Yes, I. Thank you, guys. Leonard, you wanna start us with a prayer, please?
Yes, sir, I will. I'll just bow my head for a second and say a short prayer. Divine loving Father, thou who art the creator of heaven and earth and all that in them are, into thy hands we commend ourselves once more, asking that thou would continue to guide and protect and bless us, thou knowest our hearts, our desires, even our most secret thoughts. Please bless our loved ones, our mothers, fathers, brothers, cousins, uncles, and significant others. And we pray that thou mayest bless our um, members who are ill. Please touch them with thy healing hand. We pray that thou mayest bless also our country of Belize, its people, and its leadership. Please bless the United States of America as well, and the rest of humanity, especially those people who have need of food and clothes and shelter, and those who are being killed in wars for no justifiable reason sometimes. We pray, loving Father, that thou will accept our humble expression of gratitude for, for being thankful to thee, for having given us the bread of life in the first instance, and secondly, for giving us the opportunity to come on tonight's program and have something to say to our Belizeans at home and abroad. We pray that thou mayest guide our lips, guide our minds as we endeavor on this program, that it may provide some public benefit to some of our brothers and sisters. We ask these mercies in Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Amen.
Back to you,
Uh,
Mr. Red. I'm sorry, I should have been saying,
Tonight, I'll do a reading from Psalms chapter 34, 1 to 10. It reads, I bless the Lord at all times. His praise shall continually be in my mouth. My soul makes it its boast in the Lord. Let the humble hear and be glad. Oh, magnify the Lord with me, and let us exalt his name together. I sought the Lord, and he answered me and delivered me from all my fears. Those who look at him are radiant, and their faces shall never be ashamed. His poor man cries, this poor man cries, and the Lord heard him and saved him out of all his troubles. The angel of the Lord around, encamped around those who fear him and delivers them. O taste and see that the Lord is good. Blessed is the man who takes refuge in him. O fear the Lord, you his saints. For those who fear him have no lack. The young lion suffers want and hunger, but those who seek the Lord lacks no good things. That's my reading from Psalms chapter 34, 1 to 10. Uh, I will pass it over to the chairman for tonight, Ms. Sharon Pitts. Um, like I said, there's a lot going on in our nation, and we have always been passionate about our healthcare system in this
Yes.
country. So, Ms. Pitts, I'll pass it over to you, Mom. So,
Thank you very,
and
very much, Mr. Leonard, for the prayer. And thank you, Mr.
you're welcome.
Roody, for the reading from Psalm 34, 1 to 10. And to our listeners out there, Belizeans, friends of Belize, thank you for your patience and staying the course. And I want to say that you can well commemorate, gentlemen, 220
fifth,
yet
25th,
landmark
25,
225.
225, Ms. Pitts. Yeah.
Now soon reach the amount of years of the Battle of St. George's Key. That sounds
Let
good.
me
So you
let me
have
try
a
him there.
bicentennial, and I think that is beautiful. You've stayed the course, and that is more than commitment, right? So, but that is the
Amen.
stuff that Belizeans are made of when you're on the vanguard and when you're looking after the rights of your people and country. And as
Amen.
Honorable Philip Golson said, he used to say not only people have rights, countries have rights. And it's a duty of each and every citizen of Belize to defend the rights of Belize. And in so doing, you look after people who might otherwise be voiceless. So I want to commend and thank you.
Thank
With
you.
respect to where we can start, healthcare. Health is always the most urgent matter. It is most crucial. It seems to me you could say you might not need a lawyer when you're ready, but I would always advise people take care of your health and then your legal matter. So, doctors, I think they work the hardest, and nurses and paramedics, the Florence Nightingales of Belize, the ward maids at the hospital, those who do administration, etc., etc., the pharmacists and dispensers and so on, right?
Amen.
Now, with respect to Belize, I have said I don't know, maybe you gentlemen feel it's an exaggeration, but it seems to me that the way the health situation is being left, it is reaching or walking towards crisis proportion and
Amen.
danger call for rescue. It seems to me, without more, that it might be that, one time when you'd have said people dead for old age, because the person led a
Yeah.
dignified life, got his 3 score and 10 plus whatever, right? Or old age would have been a colloquial for natural causes. Unfortunately, it seems to me because of the dismantling of certain things which were part and parcel of our healthcare system, people are at the risk of and actually dying from young age in Belize. No, we cannot countenance that. We cannot let that be some normalcy. So, gentlemen, what have you to say about the health system in Belize and the delivery of services? And you can key in on whatever you feel is the most current aspect of that. In turn, please, Mr. Wade, would you like to start, or Mr. Leonard?
Go ahead, Leonard.
I'll defer to Mr. Wade.
Okay, okay,
Yeah.
okay, no problem. Thank
Thank
you,
you very
Miss
much,
Spitz,
Madam Chairman, Sharon.
for that keen observation, and thank you for expounding on the healthcare of our country, because without a healthy country, a healthy people, what we have, right? We need to keep our people healthy, but I can't see why the system, and this is enough for now. We could remember, those of us who were born here could remember the old hospital, right? We came a long way, Madam Chairman. We came a long way from the 60s and the 50s, I think, to a more modern, to most Belizean, we call it a modern hospital, but the KHMH. Um, so for me, I think that we came from that era to now 2024. We should be more advanced, more sophisticated, right? I take, for example, I have worked in some of the biggest hospital in Los Angeles, right? 12, 14 stories, and each floor have, they call these things basic, Madam Chairman, and Leonard, basic equipment. They have CT scan, they have their EKG machine, they have their ultrasound machine, they have their labs. I'm talking floor, Madam Chairman, floor by floor by floor. These are basic. We having a hard time to get one CT scan in the country. 2024. And just imagine the amount of taxpayers' money, every year, and then every 3 months or every quarterly, they go for money, and supplementary and all this, you know, where do these people put the money? Where? And not to mention, my people both at home and abroad, the amount of donation, Madam Chairman, the amount of donation from outside entity on a regular basis that comes into this country. Where are these donations? Where are these equipment that these people had donated and continue to do? Right? So it makes me wonder then that, when these things come through the front door, they go through the back door to where? Right? But my main thing is that, these leaders that we have had and have now have no kind of heart, have, no kind of feel for the poor people who need these services, these medication, and these equipment in the hospital. They come, they sit, they ravel the system, and they could fly out anywhere, any part of the world for their medical needs because the taxpayers pay for it, right? And they could care less about going to the, doing what is right for the Belizean people, man, right? And when they do something, the whole world know, right? And like it's a God gift to the Belizean people. Look at all the 3 times, Madam Chairman, they went to the house to get a CT scan. 3 times. And the 3 different times, it's money. The first time they get so much money, it never happened. The second time, they went and they get another amount of money, it never happened. And the third time, right? That's when it finally happened. Right? Why these people continue to do this to our poor people, man? Right? And then when you go to the hospital, it's only for you to see a doctor, Madam Chairman, and Leonard, only to see a doctor, so they give you a prescription for you to go outside, right? To fill that prescription, right? Or to get some blood works, or to get a CT scan, or to get a ultrasound or EKG. This should never happen, man. Deplorable. Very
So,
deplorable.
if I
Back to you,
may,
Madam
and
Chairman.
perhaps, thank you, Mr. Brackett could, on his own, whichever direction you wish, Mr. Brackett. But what I'm hearing is that, Mr. Wade, you said we went to a modern hospital. No, it seems to me that if you used to have delivery of medicine with a dispensary right at the hospital, if you had the hospital set up as a one-stop care facility with, when you mention each floor in a hospital, basic equipment, you gave a good list, and it's an eye-opener, Mr. Wade. CT scan, electrocardiogram machine, ultrasound, and labs. Okay, it would seem to me then that, but I don't want to run off, it's Mr. Brackett's turn. And then you mention the going to the host 3 consecutive times. It seems to me to get machine, get a
Get the
CT
money.
scan,
Yes, get the money to
and it
purchase.
seemed to me it was also that commented by a citizen that I think the Prime Minister in a New Year's message or a Christmas message, it's interesting. that he made an announcement, and it seemed he expected people to get up and clap, that one of some machine or medical equipment was secured for Belize and the
CT
hospital.
scan. Yes, it's a
And it
CT
was
scan.
the person's response that those things are basic, taken for granted, and really and truly, you should have one or two, or actually have not one or two, but a few of those available 24/7. Mr. Brackett, please.
Uh, yes, Madam Chairman, as you rightfully took note, the Prime Minister himself at one point said that that machine was procured.
Secured.
We had been told that a few times before when they went to the house to appropriate funds, and I think it was about the third or fourth time that they said that the machine. At one point, the machine was already in the hospital. It was just a matter of, for them to fix a little spot where they were going to place it. And then we found out that they went to the house and asked for money again to get the same machine. You know, so we've been told over and over that this machine is coming. We finally had it, finally got it installed, working, and it only worked for a little while. A new machine should not fall apart that quickly unless it was a repaired machine that needed additional maintenance. But even if it was a new machine, you have upkeep of the machine and then you have the regular maintenance of the machine. And now we don't have it available, but the private hospital has theirs. So everybody that needs that type of service now runs to the private hospital, and with the NHI program in place, the private hospital is going to take all the money that should have been going to our general hospital and for our upkeep. So in other words, the general hospital will still not have funds because all the funds are being sucked up by expensive services that the private hospitals are going to be able to tap into now. But before I continue on that, Chen, I wanted to read a little part here from the Constitution of Belize dealing with this same matter about health and what it says. I read under the preamble of the Constitution of Belize, it says, whereas the people of Belize, I will skip paragraph A and I'll go to paragraph B. And it reads as follows. Whereas the people of Belize respect the principles of social justice and therefore believe that the operation, operation of the economic system must result. Uh, Mr. Roody is sending me a note there and it's covering up, so I have to wait. Okay. Must result in the material resource of the community, being the country, being so distributed as to subserve the common good, that there should be adequate means of livelihood for all, that labor should not be exploited or forced by economic necessity to operate in inhumane conditions, but that there should be opportunity for the advancement on the basis of recognition of merit, ability, and integrity, that equal protection should not be given, that equal protection should be given to children regardless of their social status, and that a just system should be ensured to provide for education and health on the basis of equality. That is, that the government is mandated to look after the health and well-being of the society at large, that the
Amen to
assets of
that.
the country, the wealth of the country, its treasury, and all government um, policies of state should accrue to the benefit and well-being of the country and the society as a whole. But apparently, because we have a private hospital that was bought with public money, meaning money out of the treasury, or treasury by the way, under a previous administration, and we had to pay not only that the money that was gotten to buy that hospital, but we had to pay interest over a long period of time when that matter was being litigated. That amounted almost to 100. It went from $20 million to almost, I think it was 90 something $1 million. And we did not end up with a share in that hospital. We did not end up with no services for the general public out of that hospital, when in fact that money could have gone, that hospital should have been bought in the name of the public, since it was public funds that were used. But now we have private people owning and controlling it, and some of those very same people are in the present government, and what they're doing is, I'm sorry, I just need to drink a little water here for a second. Just pardon me for a second. Yes. So what these jackals are doing is getting a 2-for-1. They got our hospital, our money to buy the hospital, which they now own privately. They are now doubling into the NHI funds that should be made available to our hospitals and local clinics to help them provide more enhanced services to the public. The private hospital is now being authorized to render services and bill those services to the public hospitals and to the public treasury. So the NHI funding will be depleted by these high cost services from the private hospital. And not only that, but the people that they have running the public system appear to be beholden and are there to run the system in the ground. So that instead of having a CAT scan that is operational and available at all time, and maybe even having one-on-one, we don't have one that's available to us right now because it's down. After all the travails and troubles that we went through to get that one. So if you want that kind of service, you got to find money out your one pocket or the NHI or Treasury to go and pay that private hospital to render that service to you. How can that private hospital have their system operational and ours is not, so that private hospital can make the money and ours don't? That is not by accident. It's not by oversight. I'm tempted to believe that just like the clinics and our hospitals, who should be getting this money, most of this money is going to be going into private hands. I yield up, Madam Chairman, Chairwoman.
Thank you, Mr. Brackett. So, and I'm very grateful that you read in the tenets and the constitutional fortitude, which if these people look to the Constitution, let's say they don't have no natural conscience or they're indifferent to human suffering and sickness, at least look to the Constitution and let that be your guide. We just say let your conscience be your guide. But you see the Constitution, where it has a conscience built in, equity. And
But these people have no respect for our constitution,
they have
Madam
none,
Chairwoman.
and they are
That's the problem.
privateers
That's
and
where the deterioration
profiteers.
right
What
now.
you set out just now, Mr. Brackett, illustrate quite clearly. How could it be that you would be outsourcing these basic services that Mr. Roody Wade, from his experience in hospitals, would say, you know, when you had wall to wall carpet, the floor to floor basic equipment. It's not
Mhm.
anything extraordinary, it's a norm. And if you're in a business of, not the business rather, if you have the responsibility and decency, people don't choose to get sick. Sometimes they fall sick, but you must rescue your people. The health of a nation is the wealth of a nation. But it's these
Amen
people
to that.
pander to that and say it and they will sling those words. But it seems to me that they are into gimmicks and tricks
Uh,
instead of,
Madam Chairwoman, uh,
yes, sir.
you said about the health of a nation is the wealth of a nation. I would say, but the wealth of our nation is the piggyback of these jackals, hyenas, and vultures and vampires. All they are interested in is the big hustle, not in providing any management or governance, proper governance to our society or our people. And that
So
is their
what you
slogan.
have in health, it seems, is it you said it couldn't, it's not by accident. And when things happen consistently, you have to have that conclusion, especially on the most crucial matter, which has to be with the health and life of our people, which should be prioritized.
Mm,
And the Constitution, to my mind, embraces what would be the commonwealth of the nation.
mm,
So all your resources from taxpayers, all your good sense and good judgment, even the time that you take in parliament, how could it be that you have to go to the National Assembly several times, going through motions? You're stalling. You're trying not to address the situation.
mm,
When they want to raise money for certain things, quick, fast, and hurry, and before you could say disclose it to the public, it's done. My view is that, sorry, I'm not to give my views as the chair, but it seems to me, gentlemen, that what you're doing is calling out
Madam
and
Chairwoman,
speaking.
Madam
Yes,
Chairwoman,
sir.
that rule does not abide to the purview of the chairperson. The chairperson has the rights, responsibility, by the way, to weigh in and direct the program. So you're well within your rights to be able to exercise that prerogative.
Thank you. Now
You're
let
welcome,
us
ma'am.
go back to memory lane. Old Belize Hospital, located on the seafront. Dispensary used to give free medicine. Up till the other day, you could get not free, paid for by the taxpayers, right? But all of us agree that people entitled to that. That is
Basic.
access, that is delivery of social services, that is taking care of the health of the individual. And I have been made to understand that in countries like ours, which might be seemingly poor, the best approach to health is
Uh,
preventative medicine.
uh, Madam Chair, I
Yes, sir.
see Greg in the background. I'm going to see if I can bring him in because I think he was
Yes,
having some
please.
problem. I'm not sure if he.
You could go ahead, Madam Chair. Go
Yes.
ahead.
Thank you. Good night,
Yeah.
Mr. Gregory Brackett.
Good
Good
night,
night, Greg.
Madam Chair, and good night to you, gentlemen. I thank you all. It's always a pleasure to sit with you all virtually, bringing to the people at home and abroad Belizean affairs. As you can see, we are looking forward to a general election, and there's a lot that we can interact about. I go back to you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Greg. So we are discussing health as a priority and then a couple other issues, one of which I think would be important will be the recovery efforts and the people in the Belize River Valley. What I want to say though, Mr. Greg, just before I ask you to put forward your views on the health matters in Belize, the health crisis, if you see it as that, that all Belize City Hospital was on the sea. In my view, the location alone, people go to tropical countries. In colonial days, they used to travel across the seas. and come to the Caribbean. People come for respite and health and wellness because the very air you breathe, the fruits you eat. So, all Belize City Hospital, it seems to me that that was moved, and a part of it was so that what is happening now is actually happening, that they could rake and scrape the land. There was no reason not to hold on to that property that had the wellness component. Now, you had your medicine, you had your dispensary, right? You had your vocational nurses from the nursing school, right? You had your Black Cross nurses. Belize had early public health a certain way. And say what you want of the British, but when it came to that, they acted on the basis of equity. There was egg powder. We as children used to have milk in the school, although powder, even if the picnic they take it as calabash from that carnival season, right? Or the teacher could make powder bun and they could mix milk, just not serve it out in a white pail, or even if it's a brand new white pail, that against our culture. You all know why, right?
Yes.
So basically, family used to have children to play. You had wormile, castor oil, you had your fruits, Uh, what's the other one? Cirrhosis center. You get your clean out, you're back to school good and
To
proper.
make you well.
Yes, and you had your fruits and your fresh air and so on, right? So basically, we had health and wellness, right? Quality of life. Jump forward, right? You have had seeming improvement. You don't build a new hospital building and then take away the delivery of services. You don't build a new hospital building and basically, as I understand it, Carlisle Memorial Hospital and Belize City Hospital before that, I just see it as one has moved locus, right? It's one and the same. Uh, you have the only mass casualty hospital in the country. And in Belize, given the population and what is there, mass casualty might be 5. So, with crime out of control and traffic accidents, God forbid, and what grieved me is that with these young people, athletes who had that unfortunate accident,
Sad.
why would it be that anybody at any hospital in this century in Belize would have to say that they don't have equipment? Has that comfort story when you should be having 4 or 5 functioning sets of such equipment? No excuse. These things should not be farmed out to any private hospital. The time that the test goes over from hospital, the main public hospital, to the private is crucial time. And unlike in the US and other countries where you have private hospitals, I have never seen a plaque on the outside wall of any so called private hospital in Belize where they declare in conformity with law, not just Hippocratic oath or Hippocratic, however you pronounce it. We seem to be running on hypocrite oath sometimes in Belize, God forbid. You cannot turn away anybody who needs critical care. And then you see that is where the government would adjust. It's like an inbuilt commandeering for the public good. Now that you mentioned, Mr. Brackett, but these people, they're talking of Billing Hospital, Belmopan, and then you see that there's a hustle in that.
Lack of health.
Everything is
Lack of
always
health
a hustle.
consideration.
They can't say, well, leave health out of the hustle. Be decent about that. It's a rake and scrape of taxpayers' money. It's a vulgar, jackal behavior. And it's as though they don't understand people. People don't choose to get sick. When the people at hot, oh, and then the doctors are severely underpaid, nurses and so on in Belize. And then you have a turnover. Then they want to hold them to ransom. Then they keep importing people who they sign contracts with foreign governments like Cuba to return their people. But you know what? Doctors study more intensely and sacrifice more than any other profession on this planet. They have their dignity and they take them for granted because they know it's patient first. But your unit, your Belize City Hospital is your urgent care, tertiary, or teaching inbuilt teaching hospital with database and experience. Your nursing school, which was in Belize City, and the nurse could come, nurse hopeful from throughout the country, be put up, right? That was our model. Then they're close to the hospital, and it's a profession, it's not a vocation, but they had it as this, okay, not call it vocation, call it profession. But it seems that they took away the word and they condescend to say profession. Then they import nurses in, and then there's no a thing. Oh, the nurses are going abroad, and we are sorry they are going abroad. These people are not going to green pastures. They are moving away from a hostile environment because they have been pushed out. Because you know what? It seems that the one policy that I can read is that people are being left to die from young age in Belize. Mr. Brackett, please, before I get dismal, please, if there's any bright side, please help us. Mr.
Thank
Gregory,
you,
please.
thank you, Madam Chairman. I look at the whole scenario from yesterday to today because I look at it as the basic need that the people of Belize need. When I look at the basic staple food, I look at the health care, and it goes in one and the same. We have past and present government who is giving away concessions to foreign entities. We have a present government who is talking about tax breaks for employees, people who is making less than 30,000, people who are buying new property, people that they can ease some duty to. And you listen to all these good scenarios because the general election is coming and we have a past and present government that can't even buy a fire truck. The basic thing that people need can't even buy an ambulance. So when we look at the health system and we speak about trying to build a new tertiary hospital, putting the horse before the carriage, we have to look at what is happening in the country because anyone who goes for health service will see that these doctors that work at the KHMH is also working in a private hospital. So how can you receive good medical attention? You can never do that because you have one doctor looking might be looking at 3, 4 thousand patients. How can he keep up with that? So when I listen to our government talking about nurses leaving and all that, I would say to them, because we are having this problem, if you pay a fair wage, you will have the people stay and perform highly, and their jobs would be highly appreciated. When you have the BDF, who is at a minimal pay scale, you have the police force, you have teachers that can't even receive their
Hold on,
increment.
please, Mr. Greg. I just want to use a little chairperson pause right now because I don't want to miss this. You know, it was being said and reported that the BDF soldiers were taking bribes, and then somebody was saying, allegedly, chickens and so on. Well, you know, and I know he will be grateful if I call his name. Captain Nicholas Sanchez from Canada shared with me a bit of reference to history and put that in context. I think he said it was when Napoleon, one of the French leaders, went to war and he captured soldiers from the enemy. He made sure he fed them well. So he said, like, Belizeans have to understand, that's a national security threat. Mr. Wade, you understand that more than all of us, the soldier that you are and were. So that when we have it that anybody would have to, as a soldier, Mr. Wade, isn't it that with your jungle training and survival, you're not even supposed to accept food from anybody because it could be adulterated to mess you up or to get to you, your water supply and everything. And in addition, you have training that you should be able to. I hear that in the forest you even have the jungle titai, rainwater titai, where you could get
Mm-hmm.
water out of, right?
Mm-hmm.
You
Yeah.
can live on insects, food, fend for yourself, game meat, right? And as well, your survival tactic will have you know what you need to do to balance your mind and your brain and your psyche so that whether that torture or hunger, your stamina built up. So, Mr. Greg, in that you touch on the BDF, right? Our BDF should be well paid. They go to Sandhurst, the Gurkhas train with them, they are world class. And with our healthcare system, we have to say to these people, as Bert Tucker would have said, there are no different standards. There's one standard in the world, and it's excellent, and we'll hold them to that. Excellence.
Madam Chair,
Excellence. But I just had
Madam
to put
Chair,
that in. Go on, Mr. Greg, please.
if I may, and just to piggyback on what you were saying, we have to look at the whole total scenario, as I was saying. When we have foreign entities giving you grants or so-called grants, and you are talking about putting some in education and some in energy, and you are talking about how important education is, free education, and it will take you 2 years to build a school. That is ludicrous, Madam Chairman. And I can go on because here
Let me
we have
ask
a
you this,
government.
please, Mr. Greg Brackett. How it is in the tourist district of Belize, St. Mary's School could, under Belizeans' eye and nosiness and fastness and interferingness, be left to fall apart in an
Shame.
area where you have Majestic Alley, Pink Sally, you have abject poverty, footsteps away from the tourist village. Because you know
The
what?
answer to that, Madam
They
Chair,
see
is
that
simple.
as prime tourist property, and they see the Belizean children and people out of in the way, and it goes back to what it was that was said to the man when he asked, "How do I keep the people under control?" Umpteen decades ago, three things: keep
Mellow them
them
out.
poor, and the brata was, and uneducated.
And
Go
mellow
on,
them.
Mr.
You,
Brackett. And I want to
thank
ask
you,
a
Madam
question as
Chair.
chair just after.
But what you just said is exactly what I have been saying on this platform for over an year. We are living in a designer system designed to keep the low class people in poverty, as we
By
can see it.
design, not accident.
That is correct. These governments know that if they pay your salary by weekly, you can afford to handle your money easier than monthly. And once you have money, you have the power and you can vote them out. They don't want you to have that power. That is why they keep the designer system the way it is. I have spoken about the role of government. What is the role of government? Government is failing externally, internally, and with domestic policies. The role of government is to get with private sector and to create jobs. But we have not have any long-term job created from both past and present government. As we see the present
Stick up
government,
in, please, Mr. Brackett.
as we
Well, maybe
see
I
the
shouldn't go
present
there.
government
But
is
where is the
trying
value
to
added, the
use,
light assembly? Why are we now, I think it was Finland of Bahamas as prime minister, even though they have a robust tourism industry? I was saying to somebody today, our district, that the Bahamas, the full name of that country, I believe, is the Commonwealth of the Bahamas, and they are very nationalistic and patriotic. I think it might be one country that you don't even have to worry too much about visa to go to the US, but they protect their people. You can't go in if you live there or born there in a casino go gamble. So they guard you fastidiously, at least at last I knew, against social ills. But Mr. Brackett, you mentioned something. You said we're failing internally, externally, and what was the other way you said, Mr. Greg?
even our domestic policies. And I can tell you why. The present government is using the BPOs as generated jobs. Look at what happened when we had a national emergency. BPOs was classified as essential service.
That's
They
a
were
shame,
calling
Grace.
out their employees, threatening them with termination for not showing up to work. And it goes beyond that because just when we had Thanksgiving, the BPOs was closed. So I wanted to ask the question, is government willing to pay these employees that was not working on Thanksgiving Day at the BPOs? Because
Uh,
this is something to show the people of Belize. We are in a Senate inquiry where the present government is in denial that they had anything to do with trying to pass legislation for the definitive agreement. But then the question should be asked, if you said your hands are not dirty, who in government has labeled and classified the BPOs as essential service? That is one the people of Belize must
Excuse
need to
me?
know.
Madam Chair.
Who on earth classified the BPOs, call centers as essential
Essential services.
services? But remember, connect the dots. Wasn't it the prime minister who was saying to the nation of Belize on television that the education must shift and the IT vets to call center, when you gentlemen and I
You
were
are
saying
correct, Madam
strongly
Chair.
and in righteous indignation that call centers only need 2 weeks training, and anybody, and Belizeans like gossip and like talk.
You are
You do not
perfectly
do
right,
that.
Madam
So,
Chair.
oh, and then the betrayal is that these people are still getting underpaid. But where is it that there's some guarantee to these call centers? And I will tell you this. I represented somebody who left the call center. I represented a person in court because the call center, he was a tech guy, and the call center was refusing to pay him his unpaid
Gratuity.
leave.
Servants.
And the call center managerial person from abroad was saying, you know what? When we came into Belize, before we set up, we got a guarantee, or employee handbook provision was guaranteed ahead that if an employee didn't take the vacation, he or she lost it. And I was saying that's illegal, that's unconstitutional. I checked labor, labor said not us. And I said to this man, and he went every color of the rainbow. I said, for your information, maybe the news didn't reach you, but slavery was abolished in British Honduras, as this country was, in 1834. And even before that,
Madam
our
Chair,
people had a way.
Madam
Go
Chair,
ahead, Mr.
I just
Leonard.
read that precise factor from the Constitution that I quoted earlier when I read paragraph B of the Belize
Sorry,
Constitution.
Mr. Brackett, please
Of
project your voice a little. I'm not hearing too well.
yes, okay. I just read that same issue from the Belize Constitution preamble under section B, where it says that nobody should be made to work under adverse conditions tantamount to slavery. That is to say, to work and not get their pay, or not, or be forced to work in inhumane conditions. When you have an emergency, a national emergency, as in the case of where you could lose your life or limbs because of a hurricane, that's an adverse condition that you're not supposed to be forced to work under, except you're a truly emergency classified employee. And they're not
Let me
telling you
ask you
again.
this.
So how did
Let me
BPO
ask you this,
and why does the
gentlemen.
minister refuse to answer who took that matter to cabinet as a favor to the BPOs?
But this is wrong. It's wrong, wrong, wrong. It's wrong, wrong, wrong. It's a betrayal of the people of Belize. You all
And a betrayal of
remember
the
some time
Constitution.
ago when there was a hurricane and in Placentia or somewhere, the employer insisted, as told by one of the employees in the storm, they were having the hurricane party and threatening the employees with termination. And a young lady, at least one person perished. I want to ask you this, right? And it's just that time seems always short. Mr. Greg, you indicated election come near, but they can be electioneering with their gimmicks. But again, I want to commend you, gentlemen, for staying the course. And I want to stay and counsel and advise the people of Belize. You can't be on an election timeline because you will be jerked around. The issues that you take up and task yourself with day to day are always ongoing front burner issues. And politicians will come with gimmicks and they like do it before Christmas. Let me ask you this, right? Something that I keep forgetting to ask with respect to how politicians behave and people let them get away. No, I don't know for sure. But by way of one person commenting on the Northern Highway in Belize City, there is a stretch of what you call the median, that little part in the middle, which has borders of a line of blue lights. Now, the person who pointed it out to me said that the practices and it looked like a plain runway. So the person tongue in cheek me they asked, but sarcasm lasts on them one day, you know, so they want in a government. So you can't try sarcasm with them, right? Because that loss. They take that as for them, what you call it, for them desert and laugh at the people after. It looked like that we plain land. And if that is the case, it can create, and it's a hazard, a safety hazard. Planes don't come to Belize at night a lot, but you do have the evacuation planes. You do hear, you know, when you hear the helicopter in the air and so, you think the hospital language, right? And if plane they fly at night, somebody tell me what plane up there. Me no want to see no plane because you know what? Me no expect plane for the fly over Belize at night
Madam Chair,
unless it's scheduled. So, Mr.
Madam,
Brackett and gentlemen, is the person ought to be frightened to say that because of gimmicks with one put blue light, their people they transgress against standard practice in traffic. But wrong to hear traffic, then they fool wrong.
Madam Chair, I can recall in the past that our roadways used to be used by drug landing planes over and over and over. So that shouldn't be any news to anybody that is 40 years or older.
Right on that.
No, but the thing is, this one in a Belize City more. So, mm, why
All
the blue
right.
light? Why people not question that? Why that just left so? This is not about your party blue. You can have your blue Kool-Aid, you can have your blue Conquest, you can have your blue drugs, PUP, but please, not pip blue lights power stretch a street, thoroughfare, highway. That thing, some plane might take it. It might be one straightaway emergency plane. It might be one medevac plane. They take it for one landing.
Madam Chair, Belize this year was classified
Mr.
as
Brackett,
a
I can't
narco
hear you.
state.
Sorry.
This year, Belize was classified as a narco state. There are people out in the world who know more about Belize than we do as Belizeans, born and grow up.
My view is Belize is a democracy, not a drugotocracy.
Mr. Wade, we've been blocking you out of this conversation for a
No,
while,
no,
Mr.
no, no.
Wade.
I very, very healthy
Sorry,
and right up. No, no, right up
Mr.
my.
Wade.
No, no,
Mr.
no, no.
Wade,
Go ahead. Go ahead.
you think the person misplaced the complain about parallel lines of blue lights on the street or thoroughfare that stretch
I, I
Belize
don't
to
put,
the somewhere?
Madam Chair, listen, I don't put nothing past these guys. Nothing at all. These guys are so brazen,
No,
right?
I actually not think that. I don't feel like they do it for land anything.
No,
I think that they really do it because of their political gimmickry with putting blue.
that's what
Or
The street turned into blue.
maybe I
It's
like things
beautiful
straight.
street now.
I mean,
Maybe I not got that way if you think how other people would have think their way there.
it's so amazing. Even when they go into the schools now, when they're going, they're so fierce, then they recruit the children now, right? I'm telling you,
Recruit the
right?
children for what?
You know, I will say this. You see this um constitution reform thing where they said they do. They can't target most of the seniors or the parents. So then they did one lot of school runs, Madam Chair. They did one lot of school run, right? And they said then you educate the children about. No, they know they do that. Then they go in there so that then they buy these kids now so that the kids could go buy them parents,
They're
right? Right?
indoctrinating.
So
And the very Kool-Aid where they want the parents drink, they want to give the children a taste of it. But Mr. Wade, remember, remember, when I hear that, when we hear, because it sounds somehow like we are tuned to one another, that thing in a school where then they say the drug-laced candy. Weren't we able to say that are drugs where they masquerade as candy and that they should have a commission of inquiry on that? That are where they reach. So the children and the school children should be off limit, but they want to indoctrinate and reach the children.
But
The
Madam
exactly.
Chair,
problem is, the betrayal
the whole
is,
other thing with that drug, when the lace, when they give the kids there, so the whole other thing disappear after the first news.
I don't hear about that
Somebody high
anymore.
up was gonna get hurt,
Yeah.
and so they swept it under the rug.
but you see now, the children should be off limits. Children shouldn't even have that responsibility. They don't have the understanding to my mind to be able to do that. Uh, go through that exercise. So what they will do is censor that the children could parrot things and use them as they almost were communistic. They were dangerous and insidious pattern. And I really wasn't aware of that, that they would stoop so low. But you see, when you have standards of excellence and you have people when okay, the how low they going. The only time any politician fit stoop so low, that if they want limbo. And that's a dance, by the way.
So,
But it sound
so,
like they want get under that limbo stick.
so to close off that, Madam Chair, what I say that how low them stoop, like you rightfully says, right? They say plain, we will educate the children now because what they did, Madam Chair, they went in all, they never even gone in all the village, but the places where they gone, I said they educate people about the Constitution and know your rights and thing. And a few people were, 15, 20 people were attend these thing, right? They find out that no, this can't work. No, we going out and them picnic, right? Because definitely them picnic going to school. So the chairman or the Mr. Chanona now he get up and he say, yeah, we going we and he start to make rounds. That's it, man. Make rounds in the schools,
That's
the
how it
high
used to
Because
be
they
schools,
around here.
want to ram it
Yeah.
down the throats of
you have to be
Belizeans.
ashamed
They
myself,
want to
man.
They want
ram
to
it down,
increase the
and I
knowledge,
know
the
a
social growth.
spoonful of sugar.
Yes.
You know how sugar expensive? They want to
Uh-huh.
put 1 ton of sugar upon
So,
that, enough for rotten teeth.
so
But
when I say
the problem is that you see, then they converge with a timeline. This is against and the irony and the wickedness with this is that the very children whose future they will be eroding, and when they turn into a police state and more like the Central American republics and move away from the rule of law. That is say poor people, picnic and children at the base, the economic base and the social base. Thanks for bringing it to attention. I didn't know,
Madam Chair, if
Mr.
I
William.
may have a word on that. I've said on this platform that the present government have no intention of trying to restructure the constitution for the people of Belize. I have mentioned that it took the Bahamas 8 years and they still did not completely rewrite their constitution. But I'm saying this to say, if the government really meant good for the people of Belize, they would not come to the people who does not know the Constitution and does not know Constitution law. They should have went to learn men and learn women as like yourself, Madam Chair, who would look up at other constitutions around the world and make sure that when the constitution is restructured, it is for the people, not
But
for
hold on, Mr.
uh,
Brackett. Thanks for that. When you look at Belize constitution, remember, you're not just going through a constitution, and a constitution is meant, remember when we went through it, to have permanency, right? And we have a constitution which came out of 1,000 years. But whether all the world got through a constitution, they're not all countries in the world. That might be trendy for them. But how many of they have one matter before the International Court of Justice?
Not too many.
So there should be no experimentation. You
exactly.
should be galvanizing. You should be holding that up and saying, thank God we have that protects us. So
But Madam Chair, they
the
are
very
operating as
timing of that,
separate
to my
agents.
mind, is
Madam Chair?
adverse to the interests of the people. Sorry, go ahead, Mr.
Yes, yes.
Leonard,
No,
please.
I was saying that the way these jackals operate is like they are captured agents operating on behalf of foreign interests. They're not operating in the
Yes.
interest of Belize. They have an agenda with a foreign interest to dispossess Belize and Belizeans, especially the Creoles, them, of this little piece of land.
That's the way. That's the impression they're
And they will
giving a
get it
lot of
done by the
us.
hook or the crook. The
That's
Guatemalans
the
are going to get
impression
it
they're
done, as I
giving.
say, by reason or by force. And so far, their reasoning is working out because they are cahooting with our leaders to help them achieve the objective. So why should they have to fire a bullet when they don't need to? I yield back, Madam Chair.
A total betrayal of the people and country and the interests of Belize. A total betrayal. I will call it nothing less than that. No, you touch I don't know how much time permit, but the matter in the leading, Mr. Wade and Mr. Leonard, Mr. Greg, the matter of the hurricane recovery or the flood recovery or the storm recovery and the people in the Belize River Valley, the watershed place where we have what we call in environmental law
Madam
intermittent
Chair, if I
waters,
may,
the heartland.
Madam
We have
Chairman,
another 20 or
if I
25 minutes,
may, I have said it
Madam Chair.
just before you came on tonight. I look at the government and I look at the unconstitutional state of emergency in Southside Belize against some of these young men who were picked up like human trafficking from their houses and trafficked to the prison in Hattieville. I look at
And
that state of
classified.
emergency, and
And
here
they were being
when we have
classified.
a national emergency, the government is on its hind leg,
Which Mr. Greg,
refusing.
sorry, Mr. Greg, I want you to continue, but which consistent with when Mr. Leonard Brackett took pains to read from the Constitution as to what is a state of emergency. Act of God or natural disaster was squarely in that. The
That is
so-called
correct.
SOE that they were having, we were saying clearly illegal and unconstitutional. So now when they have one, when danger, go ahead, Mr. Greg, please. Yes, go ahead.
Thank you for repeating that because we did cover that. We covered Section 9 of 69. That is also inconsistent with the Constitution, in which they were trying to even bar these young men from seeking judicial review or representation. The government is in denial, and I've said it again, and I will say it again tonight. Executive power is alive and living well. That is what is happening in our country. There is no separation of powers. There is no respect for our
Amen.
constitution. The
Good thing on that.
bastardization of our
Good
constitution
thing.
is taking place as we speak, and I have
And
no
and
chance.
and and
Good
their
thing on that.
friend in Salvador, they see this man Bukele as a hero. People are, but remember they come from a
Different
civil law
constitution.
country. Where the constitution that at the bottom, we the one rule of law country. And you see when they start to say the person can have lawyers and that, because crime out of control, lock them up, build a big prison. Belize a democracy, a rule of law country. And those in parliament who figure they have affinity for things like that, we must call them out. That experiment will not happen here. We have separation of powers that came out our 1,000 years, and we will zealously guard that. Go ahead,
Amen.
Mr.
Madam
Greg.
Chair,
Sorry.
Madam Chair, but even with that, as you rightfully said, if they want to follow Bukele, I want you to
They're
hear this.
not to want to, Mr. Brackett. You not talk to these people philosophically, you know.
No,
We
I'm
to
drawing you to
maintain
a
a stance. You
statement.
can't even think about wanting to, because believe our constitution and our rule of
Madam
law
Chair,
will not countenance that.
um, Madam Chair, I was saying that to show you the gross violation and how it is being done. Because when we were speaking about a state of emergency, and you have amnesty back in March of this year. I want you to hear what the Prime Minister had to say. They are crying out about Southside and the gangbangers, but they are officially bringing in gangbangers that has no type of documentation, none whatsoever. And I want to clearly
Yeah, give
state,
them. Yeah,
These
Mr. Brackett,
11,000 that have applied, it doesn't mean that they are left. They're in the process that we're working on. Actually, we have sped up the process right now. When we made certain changes and in the checking of the security clearance, because the way it was set up first, our personal special branch had to go to each individual house or person to visit them where they live, and that process would have taken more than 4 years. So what we're doing through Interpol, and I think there is another group from out of another from, I'm trying to remember, but set up from El Salvador to see if you belong to any gang or anything like that. So we're going to be.
Madam Chair, I stop it there for one reason, because of this.
I want to ask about the official complicity of the department in facilitating the movement and the regularization of illegal migrants into Belize. I have here a number of police records which were presented at the station that night in Dangriga. These are police records for persons who've only been in the country 6 weeks and have no formal status, didn't even have any documents. Someone showed up at the Dangriga police station with records. Police records are 4 of them. I want to stress that these are regular police records. We know, I have investigated this, and I know that when a migrant or someone without permanent status in Belize applies for a police record, they get a special record. That's a different kind of record. But these people had regular records from the Criminal Records Office, and even many of them without their passport number. This suggests to me that the police department at a high level is facilitating the regularization of illegal immigrants. Second, it may be facilitating persons whose labor is being exploited. This becomes an issue going into amnesty. Because if you are going into amnesty and you have a police record, somehow you get a regular police record, then you are halfway, your foot is halfway in the door, even though you only arrived here 6 weeks ago.
I do not.
And if you see the record, Madam Chair, it says natives of Guatemala. Now imagine.
isn't that what I've been saying on this
Look to
program
you, Madam
over and
you
over and
don't
over?
have
You're
to
facilitating
imagine.
Guatemala taking over this country
These people
under the
have been
guise of migrant
consistent with
assistance?
the betrayal. They have been consistent.
Bunch of traitors.
And when it is that a Belizean has to pay $200 for a passport, when a Belizean has to line up, when a Belizean has now to go online, when a Belizean is being told you don't need a passport or you don't deserve one, when that is birthright. And that I believe, in my view,
Amen.
that any other place, any other country where a leader would be saying publicly, in jest, privately, make any notion or think that it's national, should not have the country's passport, which is birthright. That leader would not be leading the country. There would be a vote of no confidence and a recall of that leader. He would be sent
Well
home like
said,
when the
Madam
teacher
Chair.
sends somebody home and say, you depart suspension indefinitely, and you know what? Look for another school or look for another country or something. These are the things that I will tell you. There was a time when Honorable Philip Wilson said, he forecasted, he outlined, he said Belizean rights would be the issues which are facing Belizeans. And you see how every which way you turn, there is something that is hammering away at our Belizean rights. Now, and the delivery of services, then you see while the grassroots and the navel string, Belizean rights going down, They are granting privileges to people who don't even, they're not entitled to certain things. And with respect to, one says that that's unfounded claim against our country. The Constitution should be upheld, and nobody from west of our border should even be entertained.
Section
And then it's fast
29(3).
tracking with indecent case, foreign agenda, but the Queenslands and fifth columnists, the agents are within the country of Belize, and
And
they
they're doing it,
are in
Madam Chair.
offices.
Madam Chair, they're doing it all for a few dollars more that the uh, international community is paying them to facilitate these people.
Well, I'll tell
So
you
they're being
something,
sold
Mr.
lock,
Brackett.
stock, and barrel.
Mr.
That's what
Brackett,
being sold lock, stock, and barrel is about.
a minister once said, and this was a minister's spiritual son, that, and I don't want to be anything other than, let me put it this way, Belize is a pimper's paradise, according to these people. No, 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 we're a people's paradise. But when there's a pimper out there, they have to establish first and corrupt that something is pimpable. And then for those who would be a part of that pimp party or that pimp whatever, once they get to that, then it's the lowest price. And that is what is happening with Belize, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
For
Right.
some reason, people get the wrong impression that this is a pimper's paradise. And if you have dealers in places who are not upholding what's in the best interest of the country, securing a nationality, keep sacrosanct our citizenship, making sure that if somebody comes here, the person is not a terrorist. If the person is to open a bank account, the person or the money launderer, the person or never engage, the
Madam Chair,
person never that were
we had the
proven
government,
international terrorists.
we had the government
If the
facilitate
standard drop
bringing
through the
a
floor,
terrorist here, and that terrorist was provided with big money and a bank account in which to put that money. He wasn't living in Belize, okay? But Belizeans have to have certain documents in order to open one savings account or one checking account. If you live in a household and that household, one person to pay the light bill, the other people where not got one light bill in the name can't go open no bank account. But that highly classified terrorist
Um.
was brought into our country without people's knowledge or acquiescence, without proper guidance and public knowledge. America didn't want that person in their country, but for we people, we leaders are known to be pimpers, which is why the point that you brought up just now about pimpers' paradise is relevant, because we are known to be subornable for a little cash. The right hand
Also,
pays the left hand, and everything rolls. I
also,
yield back, Madam Chair.
also, Madam Chair, give me a minute, please.
yes, please,
Last
Mr. Wade.
last week they busted a big ring with lots of drugs, illicit drugs,
Contraband.
and immigration equipments. And you know what's going to happen, Madam Chair? Nothing is going to come out of that. Because why? Big people is involved. The heads, some heads of department already says, oh, they couldn't, no, no, there's nothing linked to immigration, the immigration department.
In fact,
How
the
could that,
police said the
how
same
could that
thing too.
word they ever see when these people were
No less than the
found
commissioner of
with,
police said the same thing
right? Found with.
in his own
No,
words.
no, no, so well, they hear him. No, they found these people with. But like I say,
Who is in
in
jail?
this country, Madam Chair, that is going to spin around, play around, and die a
Blow over
natural
like
death,
one leaf breeze.
like one leaf
Yeah,
breeze,
blow
right?
over like one leaf breeze.
So
Said by the
that's
top
why,
person one time.
yes, that's why, Madam Chair, they are afraid to pass UNCAC, right? They are afraid to fully implement UNCAC. Thank you, Madam Chair. Go ahead. You have
Madam Chair,
9 more minutes,
these people that
Madam
we have
Chair.
government in our country
Mr.
are so
Leonard, please. I
cynical.
don't know if we
Yes,
have
sir.
time.
Thank
We
you very much,
could.
Mr. Will.
You got
The,
9 more minutes, Madam
the,
Chair. Eight
these
now.
people governing the country are so cynical to the point that they are now having the central bank governor implement policies of state, which according to the constitution they're not supposed to be doing in the first place. But they have this gentleman implementing policies of state to, to have people to have people ask them for permission to spend your own money out of your own bank account. If they don't give you permission to spend your money, you can't spend your money out of your bank account. What kind of craziness is that? They just lost a case at the Supreme Court, similar to that, with the ASR BSI case. And still these jackals are pushing that type of agenda and policies of state, which was
Let me
strengthened by the
ask you
Supreme
this,
Court,
please.
all because of taking advantage of the poor people that can't fight them back, like the
They
big
take
companies them.
advantage of the Belizean people because the Belizean people are now having to grovel to them for the little licky licky and what you call it,
For their
plastic
own
bag or
money.
something.
You got your money in
But
the
let
bank,
me
but you
ask
can't
you
go to the
this.
bank and take out more than a certain
That
amount
glowing central
without
bank
them permission.
report that Belize has grown by way of
Bunch of
its
jackals.
economy, $5,000 per capita. It seems Belize has struck gold. No, oil price hasn't gone down. The price of fuel. There's nothing that I can say is a new productivity by way of new industry. There has been profiteering and privatizing. Citrus never made it the good image, pushed to collapse till certain private people get it, right? Sugar till it's on cattle, then the rake and scrape everything. And if there
With the
were
cattle
people that
part,
I said, no, listen to
Madam
the
Chair,
nice, the market,
Madam Chair,
check
with the cattle
your
part,
change in your pocket.
the same people them that are making the laws are the ones that are benefiting from the law that they make to give certain breaks to the cattle ranchers them. They're making law for themselves. First, they wasn't paying any
Meanwhile,
money to the government. They were doing it all illegally.
meanwhile,
Now they can do it legally, still without paying any money to the government or to free
aren't we
treasury.
moving to abject poverty in Belize? Last time you got in a market,
The
Mr.
country need to
Brackett,
be
where you
blossom.
see.
That's what.
I don't know where these people get their statistic from, Madam Chair. I don't know. I don't know. So ironic that they
Child
ran to
use
an
and abuse
election.
of statistics. And it's,
Yes,
when they're saying that, then nothing will trickle down to the people, I believe, because then obviously, if that is so, and you can play games with statistics, right? Numbers and so on, right?
exactly.
But the real
Madam
cost
Chair,
of living and the real
Madam
ability
Chair,
of people to meet
if those
health.
statistics was truly valid, if those statistics were truly valid, then we just have no need to be going to the house to get any more supplemental money
Thank you,
or to
Mr.
get any
Brackett. You
loan from
see what?
abroad.
Mr.
If
Brackett,
our
thank
economy is
you.
so vibrant and people
Thank
are not
you.
starving out there, then we
People
shouldn't
will
have any
not
need
be
to
going
be
to market
asking for
and
no, no,
can't
no
have
money from nobody.
watermelon, dollar a pound. Celery, $7 a pound.
All because of the high price of gas.
Lime,
Ma- ma-
75 cents to
Madam
$1
Chair,
for one
Madam Chair,
squidgy
if I
lime.
may,
Orange tree for dollar.
And those prices have
Coconut
not come
water
down.
gone up. Rice gone up. Flour
Madam
scarce
Chair,
at the market.
the answer to your question lies within the narrative. It's a narrative that they keep repeating. It's like what is happening with Israel. Israel have the right to defend themselves. The government keeps pushing these fake narratives of economic boost when we know there is none. And they will repeat it, and it will only be heard by the people who a little bit is trickling down on. And in return, they will push the same narrative. Yes, the country is booming because they are getting a little handout. When in reality, the numbers are fixed to make it look that way.
But
But
when
they're
then
not
it
fooling no
fix
one.
and cook the numbers, then the box spread out of people's mouth, literally, then the box the smile off of people's face, and people out there are sucking their sorrows because even the sugar water, as you all have said before, which sometimes for people, even sugar get expensive,
Can't get it
producing
up.
Belize,
Can't get it.
flour.
I remember when my grandmother used to give us a milk pan with only 2 spoons of brown sugar,
Madam Chair, you have
and
three
we were
minutes
happy
for
with
your
that.
closing, Madam Chair. Take your closing.
The people
You
of
have 3 minutes.
River Valley, I want to say that I am hoping that I'm really sorry and apologize that we didn't spend more time on that. The Belize River Valley is the heart and the arteries winding through from the source of the river, Belize or Old River, right down to the great
Uh,
estuary, the mouth of the river, the
Madam Chair,
Hullover,
Madam Chair,
and then the little tributary, the river mouth again at Big Bridge.
could
And
Madam
as it
Chair,
winds its way through, you
Madam
have
Chair, Madam Chair,
watersheds.
I
let's throw
think
another
Leonard,
10 minutes. Let's throw another
Sorry.
10 minutes at that topic before we close off.
you want
Okay,
you
thank
give
you.
Let's throw
her
another
you
10
give
minutes
her
at that
how
particular
many more
topic.
minutes?
We can't close off without doing justice to it.
How many more
So,
minutes you get?
Another 10 minutes, sir.
Madam Chair, you have another 10 minutes,
okay,
Madam Chair.
thanks. So I am doing this by way of introduction then. So the people in the Belize River Valley who have held on, people who the pattern is the same, you know. Whenever there's relief, they talk about everything. And if you hear the Prime Minister, anybody talking, they will mention Kayo, this, that, that. They will mention the keys. Then they somehow never want to mention the Belize River Valley. And then they treat the
So they block
people
the
as
people
under
live.
something where they should evacuate. But people of the River Valley not evacuate. They paddle down to fight the battle of St. George's Key after they vote and they hold on to the heartland. They produce, they reproduce, and they have to do with what is the resilience of Belize. They deserve to eat. Their children deserve to have the services. And if it is, and since it is that they are going through this serious, serious consequence of the storm. You know, when the top gallant did a Kayo, Mr. Rudy Wade, you know that it had traveled down, flowing down, and it will reach the lower um, reaches of the Belize River. It will come
The
down.
story of
So you
Belize.
could actually plan ahead, right? When one man they lose all the cattle because he can't carry to Highland. 50 head of cattle might not be one lot for them one way in a government and they get themselves tax write off and they hustle cattle. But 50 head of cattle for a man who raises his cattle from 2 head of cattle and multiply it. And he pick their grand, pick they drink cow milk. And when somebody
Fine.
dead, they kill one calf or one cow or a sheep. They have family gathering, they barter and exchange with the neighbor. That is dignity. That better than any economics that any central bank governor could tell you. And those are people with dignity, and you're not to rip them out from their heartland. Run the relief. Run the state of
Declare
emergency.
the
When
state
you
of
have a state of
emergency.
emergency, you examine
Belize is valid.
properly what it is that you are to deliver to the people. Survival, staying in place. They must know how to button down, and they have to risk life and limb and get sick and so on, and use their resources which they don't have. What those people have can't be held in any bank in Belize. You can bank, this country can bank on the people of the riverbank in this country. I
I
would put
send you
my money
something there,
there.
Greg. I
I
send
would
you
put my
something. Can you cue
loyalty
that up?
there.
Can you cue that up, Greg? What I send you just now on WhatsApp? Can you?
Sorry, I'll yield the
I,
other time to you gentlemen so you could weigh in and
thank you, Ms. Smith. Madam Chair, as I said before, we're dealing with a government that is in denial. We just have to look around and see what is being done. We can look at the police department, as I show. The police department is complicit with the landing of drug planes. Why don't they shift that to our Belize Defense Force, who are trained from mountainous regions that can go wherever these planes land and try to do recovery? If you have a police department that is constantly being fingered with illicit drugs, I think the wise thing that the Prime Minister should have done is change it to the Belize Defense Department. Secondly, Madam Chair, the Belize River Valley and announced state of emergency using the Belizean tap. This is how important it is when we have government giving away concession to foreign investors. This is how it is when they give themselves all these tax breaks and is using it as a political blunder to try to get votes. Because there's a new form of vote happening now, where when the Prime Minister would say in a State of the Nation speech that he will cut taxes for employees making less than 30,000. He will remove stamp duty and he will give tax breaks to
Where
new
is he gonna get the
landowners.
revenue to run the country
That
and meet all
is
our
a
obligations to
political
pay the
blunder
teachers and civil servants
to
and others?
get votes for the general election. But I want the people to know, like in the American election, if you vote for him, you will not see those stuff. Because right now he's saying it, you cannot get that until after he wins the election. So
Really
please
and
keep
truly,
it
Mr.
in
Brackett,
mind.
I'm glad you call out the political gimmick. But what we have been good at is advising the people of Belize and calling out the government, right? If you want to address what is happening in this country, you don't need to give people any tax break because the tax bite from the gas will get that right back. The government will take that right back. And the people who have private gas company and gas interest will benefit the profiteers, whether they link with government outside. So if they're serious, drop the price of
But
gas by
the prime minister have
30%.
the prime minister have a gas company, and
So
he
he
has
must
also the
recuse
ability to raise
himself
or
as
drop the price
Minister
of
of
gas.
Finance and let those who are able to look at the numbers and examine in an objective and honest way. This has to do with the price of gas. So you don't need to send people who earn under 30,000 and get tax break. Run across the board. And I was telling you something too. Uno say how you they have motorcycle accident over and over. Uno see the amount of picnic per motorbike. God protect them. Praise God. But you know what happened? The gas price they push a lot of people to using motorcycle. So even that in terms of lessening road traffic, vehicular
Mr. Wade,
accidents and
Mr. Wade,
fatalities. You know,
you have
talk
Yes,
two
out
minutes,
there
two
about,
more minutes, sir.
sorry, go ahead,
yes.
gentlemen, Mr. Leonard and then Mr.
Two more
Wade.
minutes, Mr. Wade.
Yield the
You have
rest
two more
of
minutes,
time. Please, you
Madam
can
Chair.
use it evenly and then the last of you can, um,
I'll take 2 minutes, then I'll pass over.
yes.
No, we only have two.
Two
We have
minutes,
less than
okay.
2 minutes.
You
Time's running.
know, Madam Chair, you specify as to the Belize River Valley. You know, we talked about that on our last program. You know, where you said that it starts up the flood up in the west, and eventually it should trickle down. So planning should have been there. All these smart, intelligent people, all these lawyers and doctors and all of them that they have on these boards and as chairman and all that. The prime minister is the chairman of NEMO. That should have been known. So these poor people.
But Belize Rural North and Belize Rural Central are under the president's
So
government. So why can't they do
so
something for the people?
so I
Why
say,
can't they
Madam
declare
Chair,
a state
right
of
right
emergency
away,
that is duly
right away
entitled,
after the
get
storm,
some
he
money
went
and help the people
and
then?
declared his one of his little village a state of emergency where he represent. and left these poor people, right, to fend for themselves. Who does that as a leader? Who does that, right? So I just hope that the people of this country take heed. I just hope that the Belize River Valley residents are along there. Those that I just see on the news here now, a man lost over $100,000 of his cattle right there, Mr. Moody, right? And I just hope that at some point, he gets some kind of retribution, some kind of help, right? At some point, he gets some help, right? And I hope that this prime minister call a state of emergency for the entire Belize River Valley, right? And I call on him to be a man, to have a heart, and man up and do the right thing for the Belizean people, right? And stop the use politics, right? Enough of that. People are getting tired of that. On that
These
note,
guys are
Madam Chair, it's always a
these
pleasure.
guys are too big with the big hustle right now.
It's always a pleasure to have
That's
you.
it for tonight.
And Greg, it's always a pleasure. Leonard, it's always a pleasure. And to our viewers and listeners,
And thanks to the
at home and
viewers and
abroad.
listeners. The
Thanks,
comments.
Gregory.
Yes,
Could you take us
yes.
out, Greg?
It's always a pleasure. Look out for us on Friday. You have Mr. Leonard will be, coming to us with a constitutional hour, pretty much. And again, thank you, Ms. Spitz, for gracing us again tonight. Thank you.
And thank you, gentlemen, the triumvirate of compatriots. A pleasure. Good night.
Good
Good
night.
night.
Go the hard way. I say no.
3